Hi, I'm Figment, and today we're gonna go over a topic that I mentioned at the end of the Subtractor series that I didn't really dive into but said that I would. That being the difference between CV signals and audio signals. It's kind of really the backbone of reason, the essential. I mean, every single signal, every connection inside of Reason is either one or the other. It's either a CV signal or an audio signal. It's simple and plain. So, let's try and dive right in. See if we can get this in a single video, which we probably should. Um, at least the idea, but we could sit here, I could talk all day about the uses of CV and audio signals, but at least what they are, yeah, let's try and get that in a single video. So, audio signals, we'll start with those first. It's probably the easier, or the, it's probably just what we should start with. So, when talking about the subtractor, or, well, with audio signals, we use a subtractor so that it's somewhat familiar with something we've covered, a topic we've covered. Audio signals are just kind of almost what they sound like. A signal or a connection, a cable connection, that passes some type of audio through it. You can tell that they are audio signals in Reason because the connections, the ports for them are larger. You can see how kind of fatter these cable connections are than these little tinier ones here. So the bigger ones, those guys are audio connections, or audio inputs or outputs, basically is the only two you're going to have. But audio signals pass through there, and that's literally just what you audio. It's literally audio. It's literally some type of audio signal passing either out of an instrument into an effect unit, like let's say the RV7, or through any number. I mean, through a compressor. You can see here. Audio in, audio out, these big jacks, sidechain in, so on and so forth, and they just pass sound. So the output from this subtractor, the audio output, can go into the input of this reverb, and then from this reverb's output into this compressor, and from this compressor's output to this mixer, and you basically have an audio connection going from here to here, from the subtractor to the reverb, from the reverb to the compressor, from the compressor to the mixer, and it's an audio signal, an audio chain. That's kind of it. There's nothing more to audio signals than that. They pass audio. The trickier one, or the one that sometimes people, or it can be harder, at least it was difficult for me to wrap my head around, it was a CV signal. And a CV signal are all these smaller ports, these little guys here that are way tinier than our big audio jacks. And you can find these guys almost every device has a some sort of CV connection. What CV does is, let's use the subtractor again as a perfect example. If you remember in the subtractor series when I was talking about an LFO or a mod envelope, for example, and I was saying that basically you use this destination button to toggle through where you're going to send, let's say, LFO 1 to, what's going to affect oscillator 1 and 2 pitch, oscillator 2 pitch, maybe filter frequency, maybe phase. You're sending this LFO somewhere inside of this synth. In this case, it's going to FM, so it's going to this FM knob. It's literally like routing. You're literally routing, the the LFO to something else. In this case, I was just showing audio, but it's the same idea, except the routing isn't happening outside into something else. The routing is all happening inside this box, inside this synthesizer. So you can't really see it, but when we were going over that, you're basically sending a control voltage signal, or CV signal, to the FM knob. That's the signal that's being sent that is going to affect the unit, or the whatever you're sending it to, because we could send this to oscillator 1 and 2 pitch. That's what this LFO is sending to oscillator 1 and 2 pitch. It's not sending an audio signal from this LFO to oscillator 1 and 2. It's sending a control voltage signal. That's what these smaller plugs are. They're basically connections that will send control voltage to something else or from something else, and it always has to do with some type of modulation, if you will, or control. That's why all of the CV signals, or CV ins here on the subtractor, or any device, if you actually look at what it's called, always has something to do with either modulation or control. Sequencer control, modulation input, modulation output, gate input. It never has anything to do with audio. So in this case, like, we could take LFO1 and send it to oscillator pitch, or we could, you know what, let's duplicate this guy. Okay, so we could send this LFO to this subtractor's oscillator pitch, and this connection is a CV signal. It's going from LFO1 into this one's oscillator pitch, or oscillator phase. Sorry, I'm so tiny I couldn't really read that. Oh, excuse me. So, to kind of clarify, or to boil that idea down, when you're talking about audio signals, you're literally talking about an audio signal, some type of sound, some type of audible signal going from one place to another. It's probably going to end up in a mixer, or in some type of insert effect, or a compressor or something. You're going to see a lot of audio inputs, audio outputs. But audio just being something that's audible, something that's sound. I don't want to say the word audio signal like 5 times, but I'm trying to find another way to think of how to describe that idea. But it's literally just a signal of sound. A CV signal does not pass sound through at all. It passes control voltage, and that's always going to be some type of modulation. That's why these particular everything in this mod input and mod output has nothing to do with sound. FM amount has nothing to do with sound. The filter one frequency has nothing to do with sound. The amp level has nothing to do with sound. It has to do with volume, but not necessarily sound. Pitch wheel, mod wheel, mod envelope, filter envelope, all these things, there's no sound coming out of this. It's literally a control voltage signal, and you can send it somewhere else to control something else. So CV signals are all about control and modulation and affecting some parameter. Audio signals are all about literally just strictly balls and bones audio, something you hear. In a nutshell, that is kind of the difference between audio signals and CV signals. The uses for them is a whole nother set of videos all in and of themselves. But the main thing you need to know, or you should want to know, when anyone asks you, what's the difference between an audio signal and a CV signal? Well, an audio signal is something you hear. A CV signal is something it's a control parameter. It's something that's gonna control something else, some type of control information. Yeah, I think that's kind of the difference in a nutshell. Maybe I'll make a couple of videos after this. I'll try and keep it down to maybe 3 or 2, because there's CV alone could probably be 10 videos on the use of CV routing. There's just so many different things. So I probably might do a follow-up video showing some techniques and uses for CV signals, and some techniques and uses with audio signals. But in the meantime, there's your explanation. CV signals, audio signals. Experiment, have some fun, eat a bag of Doritos, and I'll talk to you later.